The strange animal. The sky above the junk planet was dark and full of clouds. Red lightning flashed across the sky. A big storm was coming. Jack pulled his hood over his head and walked faster. He had to reach his shelter before the acid rain started. Jack was alone on this planet. He worked as a scrap collector. Old ships, broken machines, and metal parts were everywhere. This was not his home. It was just a place where he could disappear. No one asked questions here. As he crossed a metal hill, something caught his eye. A soft, blue glow. It was coming from under a pile of junk. Jack stopped. He had seen glowing things before. Radioactive waste, old power cells. But this was different. The light was soft, gentle, almost alive. He moved closer. The glow flickered. Something moved. Jack dropped to one knee and slowly pulled away a broken pipe. His eyes widened. There, it was. A small creature no bigger than a cat. Its fur was silver with blue lines running across its body. It had long ears like a fox, and its eyes were large, too large. One eye was green, and the other was deep purple. The creature was hurt. Its leg was bleeding and its body shook with pain. Jack whispered, "Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you." The creature looked at him. Its eyes were full of fear, but also intelligence. It didn't run. It didn't cry. It just stared at him like it understood his words. Jack slowly reached out. The creature didn't move. He touched its fur. Suddenly, a small spark passed from the creature into Jack's hand. He pulled back. "Ow," he said. He looked at his hand. A glowing symbol had appeared on his skin. 3 small dots in a triangle. "What the hell?" Jack whispered. The creature made a small sound. A soft, musical noise. Like a voice, but not from a throat. Then, very quietly, Jack heard a word. "Help." He froze. He looked around. No one was there. He looked at the creature. Its lips didn't move. But the voice came again, inside his head. "Help. Please." Jack's heart pounded. "Did you just talk?" he asked. The creature closed its eyes and fell limp. Jack didn't think anymore. He picked it up gently and ran back to his shelter. The acid rain started behind him, sizzling on metal. Inside the shelter, Jack placed the creature on a blanket. He cleaned its wound with water and covered it with a soft cloth. He gave it heat from an old power cell. The creature didn't move much, but it was still alive. Jack sat nearby, watching it. He couldn't stop thinking about what happened. The voice, the symbol, the eyes. "I must be going crazy," he said to himself. "Talking to animals now." The creature moved a little. It opened one eye. "You're okay," Jack whispered. "You'll be fine, I promise." It blinked once. Jack reached into his bag and took out a protein bar. "Want something to eat?" He placed it near the creature. The creature sniffed it, but didn't eat. Instead, it looked at Jack again, this time longer. Jack felt strange, like his thoughts were not his own. Suddenly, images flashed in his mind. He saw a city, tall silver towers, floating lights, people with long robes. Then fire, explosions, screams. A girl standing on a balcony, holding something glowing, then darkness. Jack gasped and stepped back. "What was that?" The creature stared at him, then closed its eyes again. Jack looked at his hand. The glowing symbol was still there, faint but visible. "This is no normal animal," he said. He looked at the small creature sleeping on the blanket. "Who are you?" Outside, the storm grew louder. Wind howled and rain hit the roof like hammer strikes. Inside, Jack sat next to the strange animal, eyes wide open. He didn't know it yet, but his life had just changed forever. Something was coming, and this creature was not just an animal. It was something more, something impossible. The secret behind the eyes. The storm outside didn't stop for hours. Thunder rolled over the sky like war drums. Acid rain fell hard on the metal roof of Jack's shelter, leaving burning marks wherever it touched. But inside, everything was quiet, except for the strange creature breathing softly on the blanket. Jack sat nearby, staring at it. He couldn't sleep. His eyes kept drifting to the small animal lying just a few feet away. Its soft fur glowed faintly in the dark, and that symbol on Jack's hand still shimmered like a warning. He looked down at it again. 3 dots, a triangle. Nothing made sense. "What are you?" he whispered. The creature didn't respond, but Jack couldn't shake off the feeling that it was listening. Hours passed. The storm faded. Jack finally stood up and walked around the shelter. It was a small space, an old cargo pod he had rebuilt. It had a bed, tools, scanners, and a small food station. He lived simply. He didn't need much, but now, everything was different. He checked his wrist scanner. No signals. No ships. Nearby. No messages. Good. That meant no one knew about the creature. He turned back toward the blanket and stopped. The creature was sitting up, its head tilted slightly as it looked around the shelter. Its ears twitched at every small sound. Then its eyes landed on Jack, green and purple, deep and glowing. Jack froze. The creature didn't move. He slowly sat back down in front of it. "You're awake?" he said softly. The creature blinked once. Jack picked up the protein bar he had left earlier and gently slid it closer. "You should eat something." The creature sniffed it again. Then, to Jack's surprise, it carefully pushed the bar away with its paw. "No?" Jack raised an eyebrow. "You don't eat this stuff?" The creature looked at him again. And then, it happened. Jack felt it, not outside but inside his head, a soft presence, a whisper. "Food. Not for me." Jack jumped. "What the hell?" he said aloud. The creature didn't open its mouth, the voice was silent, but he heard it inside his mind. "You're talking in my head." The creature lowered its eyes, then slowly nodded. Jack leaned forward. "You understand me?" Another nod. "Are you some kind of AI?" A pause. Then, "Not machine, not human, not beast." Jack stared. "Then what are you?" The creature looked away. Its eyes shimmered with light again. And in the next second, Jack saw something. But it wasn't the room. It was inside his mind again. A silver city. Tall towers. Floating ships. Soft lights in the sky. People walking calmly. Peace. He wasn't there, but he could feel it. He was seeing a memory. Then he saw the creature, but not small. Not 4-legged. It stood tall, like a human, but more elegant. Same glowing eyes. Same soft energy. It was a girl, dressed in royal robes. Wearing a glowing pendant, she stood on a balcony smiling. Then, explosions, fire, screams, ships crashing. A dark figure appeared in the sky. Black armor, red eyes. The girl ran. She held the pendant close, a bright flash. Jack gasped and fell back. Breathing hard, the vision stopped. He looked at the creature, heart racing. You were showing me that," he said. "That was your world. That was you." The creature stared silently. Jack pointed at it. "You're not an animal. You're not even from this galaxy, are you?" The creature said nothing. Then Jack asked, the real question, "Why are you here?" The creature lowered its head. It looked sad. Escaped. Hunted. Transformed. Jack sat still. "Transformed? You're stuck like this?" "Yes." Jack ran his hands through his hair. Okay. Let me get this straight. You're an alien, you were attacked, you ran, and now you're trapped in this form?" A weak nod. Jack looked at the symbol on his hand. "That thing you did when I touched you. What was it?" The creature's eyes glowed again. Link, bond. Now you can hear me. Jack sat in silence. This was more than anything he had ever imagined. He had seen aliens before, ugly traitors, smugglers, mercenaries. But this was different. This creature, this girl, she had a soul, she had pain, she had a story, and she was completely alone. Suddenly, the shelter's warning alarm beeped. Jack's eyes snapped to the scanner. Incoming scan detected. Someone was scanning the planet from orbit. Damn it, Jack muttered. He rushed to the console and shut down all active signals. He turned to the creature. Did someone follow you? She looked scared now. Hunters. Who are they? They want the pendant. They want me dead. Jack grabbed a cloth and wrapped it around her. Come on, we have to move. He ran outside, the ground still wet from the storm. He opened a trap door under the metal floor. His emergency tunnel. He carried her down into the dark space. It was cold and quiet. He placed her gently on a blanket. You stay here. I'll check the surface every hour. If they land, we hide. We run. She looked into his eyes. Why? Help me? Jack paused. He didn't know the answer. Maybe it was the fear in her voice. Maybe it was those eyes. Or maybe he had been waiting his whole life to matter. Because you asked for help, he said, and I was there to hear it. Above the ground, somewhere in the sky, a black ship hovered silently. Inside, a tall figure watched the planet. Signal. Detected, the figure said. Its voice was cold. Another soldier replied, We've found her trail. She's here. The dark figure smiled. Prepare to land. She speaks. The truth revealed. The underground shelter was quiet. Jack sat beside the glowing creature, half wrapped in a blanket, half curled in fear. Her breathing had calmed, but her eyes remained wide open. She hadn't spoken, not even through thoughts, since they had gone underground. Jack couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of her memory again. The silver towers, the burning sky, and the girl on the balcony. It wasn't just a story. It was a piece of her soul. And now, someone out there wanted her gone. He stared at the glowing symbol still faintly shining on his hand. Since he touched her, everything had changed. He didn't ask for this, but deep inside, he felt like he belonged to this strange moment. I'm just a scrap worker, Jack whispered, rubbing his face. Why me? A soft voice echoed inside his head. Tired, gentle. You cared. No one else did. Jack looked up sharply. She was awake again, looking right at him. Her green and purple eyes shimmered like stars trapped in crystal. You can still talk to me? Jack asked. Only to you. The bond makes it possible. He moved closer. I don't even know your name. The creature hesitated, and then the voice came again, clearer this time. My name is Lyra. Jack repeated it aloud. Lyra. It sounded beautiful, otherworldly. Where are you from? He asked. She closed her eyes, and this time she didn't send him images. She spoke. Her voice came through the bond slowly, but each word was filled with weight. World is called Alari. Far from here, our people were peaceful. We lived in balance with light and nature. She paused. Then the pain hit her voice. But we were not alone. The Varn came from the Black Systems, hungry for energy. They destroyed our sun, stole our power source. We fought back. But I was never meant to fight. I was trained to lead, to heal, to protect our ancient core. Jack's chest tightened. You're not just from there, are you? She looked up. I am the daughter of the Star Council. Was their last hope. Jack stared at her. You're a princess? She nodded slowly. Yes, but title means nothing now. My people are gone. Silence. Jack didn't know what to say. He had never met a real royal in his life. And now he was sitting in a bunker with one. From another world, another war, another tragedy. But how did you end up like this? He finally asked. Lyra closed her eyes again. Her body trembled. We had one last weapon. Not a bomb. Not a gun. A relic. The Soul Stone. It can rewrite matter, protect the holder. My mother gave it to me during the escape. She told me to run. But as I tried to activate it, the Varn ship hit our escape pod. The Soul Stone protected me, but it changed me. To hide me from their sensors. It turned me into this. Jack's eyes widened. Wait. The Soul Stone did that? It turned you into an animal? Yes, it saved me, but locked my true form. Only by rebuilding the bond of trust, by reconnecting with someone pure-hearted, can I return to myself. Jack was quiet for a long time, and then he asked the question he had been avoiding. Why did it choose me? Lyra looked at him softly. Because your heart was open. Because you reached for me when no one else would have. Because you listened. The air grew heavy. The silence between them was no longer awkward. It was meaningful. But before Jack could speak again, his scanner buzzed. He pulled it out of his jacket and checked the screen. A ship had entered the atmosphere. Stealth mode. No ID. Oh no, Jack muttered. They're here. Lyra's eyes widened. The hunters. Above the planet's surface, the dark ship floated like a ghost. No lights, no signals, just silent death. Inside, the leader of the hunters stood tall in black armor. His face was hidden behind a reflective mask. His voice was cold and sharp like metal. Energy signature confirmed, he said to his men. She is down there. Somewhere close. Another soldier checked his scanner. I'm picking up a faint soul link pulse. She must have bonded. Bonded? The leader hissed. On to who? We don't know yet. A local, perhaps. The leader clenched his fists. She must not regain her form. If she returns to who, she was... The Soul Stone could awaken fully. And then we all die. He turned toward the ship's drop chamber. Send the drones. Search every shelter. Burn anything that moves. Jack paced the small bunker. We don't have time, he said. If they scan deep enough, they'll find this place. He looked at Lyra. Is there anything you can do? Any power left inside you? Lyra shook her head. Not yet. I need time, more connection, more trust. Jack frowned. Trust from who? From you. Jack stopped moving. She looked at him gently. The Soul Stone responds to emotion. To honesty. When two minds trust each other fully, the seal will begin to break. Jack sat back down beside her. All right, then let's do it. Lyra blinked. Do what? Let's talk. For real this time. And they did. For the next hour, Jack told her everything. His past, his mistakes, how he had lost his sister in a mining accident, how he had run away from Earth because it reminded him of pain, how he had lived on this junk planet for 2 years, waiting to feel something again. He spoke not like a soldier, not like a rescuer, but like a man who had been broken and was finally healing. And Lyra listened. She told him of her people, of the festivals under glowing moons, of the songs they sang to the stars, of her mother's last words, be light, even when there is none. Their minds slowly drew closer, the bond between them grew stronger. And then, it happened. A bright light filled the room, soft and warm. Jack jumped back. Lyra glowed, her fur shimmered like silver flames. She levitated off the ground, and slowly, her body began to shift. Legs lengthened. Arms stretched, her face changed, becoming more human, more graceful. The glow dimmed, and standing before Jack was a girl, tall, elegant, with silver hair and the same 2 glowing eyes. Lyra had returned. Jack stared in silence, mouth slightly open. You're... She smiled. I'm me again. Then she stepped forward and gently took his hand. The symbol on his palm shined brighter than ever. Suddenly, the ground shook, an explosion above. Jack's scanner beeped again. They had found the surface, entrance. Lyra looked toward the tunnel. Her voice was stronger now. They're here. Jack grabbed his jacket and tossed her a cloak. Then we make them regret it. She pulled the hood over her head. I can fight now, but I won't kill unless I have to. Jack smirked. Guess it's time to see what a princess from the stars can really do. Above ground, the hunter leader stood among the flames of the destroyed shelter. He turned toward the opening in the metal floor. She's down there. His eyes glowed red behind the mask. Get ready. This time we finish it. The hunters. Our coming darkness spread over the surface of the junk planet as smoke rose into the sky. The remains of Jack's shelter burned, sending flickers of red light across the sharp metal landscape. From a distance, the flames looked like beacons, silent warnings that something dangerous had come, something deadly. The hunter ship hovered silently above the wreckage, its black surface absorbing light like a shadow that didn't belong to this world. Beneath it, armored soldiers fanned out, scanning every crevice, every buried tunnel, every potential escape route. Inside the ship, the hunter leader stood in silence. He didn't speak much. He didn't need to. His eyes glowed red behind a metallic mask. His armor hummed with dark energy. He had hunted many across the stars, traitors, rebels, lost royals, even beasts. But this mission was different. This mission was personal. She must not be allowed to ascend, he said coldly. If she returns to full form, the Soulstone's power could awaken. And then, all our work will burn. A soldier approached. Sir, we've found a signal, a faint trail, heading northeast, an old mining tunnel, likely her path. The leader nodded. She's on the move. This time, we follow. Underground, the tunnels were cold, damp, and ancient. Jack's boots splashed through shallow pools as he led the way, his flashlight cutting through the dark. Behind him, Lyra followed silently. She wore the cloak he'd given her, but it couldn't fully hide her glowing eyes. Her transformation was still fresh. Her steps were unsure. Jack glanced over his shoulder. You okay? Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, but I feel them. They are close. Jack tightened his grip on his old plasma pistol. I figured. My scanner picked up heat signatures, small drones, fast movers. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Scouts, they will not stop until I am dead. Jack looked at her carefully. She still looked delicate, barefoot, glowing, tired, but now there was something new in her face. Resolve. He stepped beside her. We'll get through this, but I need to know. Can you fight? She raised her hand and focused. For a moment, a faint pulse of energy formed between her fingers, light bending unnaturally, almost like liquid air. Then it faded. I can hold them back, she said, voice low. But I'm still weak. The transformation took most of my strength. Jack nodded. Then I'll buy us time. They kept moving. The tunnel twisted and turned like a serpent beneath the planet's surface. Old mining machines sat in pieces along the walls. Abandoned carts and rusted rails reminded Jack that this planet once had workers, people, families. Long gone now. As they turned a corner, Jack raised his hand to stop. A small red light blinked ahead, barely visible. Drone, he whispered. He crouched and pulled a small mirror from his bag. Angling it carefully, he peeked around the edge. There it was, a sleek black orb floating silently. Sharp red eye, long scanning beams rotating around it like a lighthouse. Jack turned to Lyra. We can't fight it head-on. We need to distract it. She looked around and then pointed toward a pile of loose metal behind them. Throw something, draw it away. Jack nodded. He picked up a small metal tool from the floor, rusted heavy, and hurled it down a side tunnel. Clang. The sound echoed through the corridors like thunder. The drone immediately turned and zoomed after the noise. Move, Jack hissed, and they ran. They made it past 3 more drones using similar tricks. But Jack knew it wouldn't last. The deeper they went, the tighter the tunnels became, and the closer the hunters got. After an hour of navigating through dust, darkness, and silence, they reached a sealed bulkhead. An old mining door, rusted shut. "This is our best shot," Jack said. "Beyond this is the core shaft, a dead zone. No scanners can see in or out." Lyra placed her hand on the door. A faint glow escaped her fingers. The door creaked, groaned, then opened. They slipped inside and shut it behind them. The space beyond was massive. An old central shaft ran straight down into the planet's crust. The walls were layered with rusted metal, glowing crystals, and strange carvings from an age long forgotten. Jack looked around in awe. "I've never been down here. Even locals stayed away. Said this place was cursed." Lyra stepped into the open chamber. "This place is not cursed. It is sacred." She walked to the edge of the shaft and placed her hand on the glowing stone, embedded in the wall. "I feel it. A memory of light. This place remembers my people." Jack sat down on a broken beam, catching his breath. "So what now? We wait?" Lyra closed her eyes. "No. We prepare." Above them, the first wave of hunters entered the tunnels. The drones had locked onto their trail. The leader followed silently, his steps echoing through the passage like a slow drumbeat. He stopped beside a wall and touched the dust. Still warm. "They are close," he said softly. "Ready the hounds." 2 armored beasts were released, half machine, half monster. Long limbs, sharp teeth, controlled by neural implants, born for only one thing: hunting. They raced ahead, howling through the tunnels. Back in the shaft, Jack felt it before he heard it. A deep rumble. The air shifted. He stood quickly. "They're coming." Lyra stood tall now. Her hands glowed brighter. Her eyes pulsed. "I will not run anymore," she said. Jack drew his pistol. "Then we fight." Suddenly, a loud clang echoed through the chamber. One of the hounds dropped into the shaft from above, landing with a mechanical growl. Its eyes locked onto Lyra instantly. Jack fired 3 shots. The blasts hit the beast's armor, but barely slowed it. It lunged. Jack dove forward, pushing Lyra out of the way. The beast slammed into him, claws raking his arm. Jack screamed, rolling with the pain. Lyra turned, eyes wide. Her hand lifted, and a pulse of light exploded from her palm. The hound was thrown back against the wall, its metal frame sparking, but the second one landed right behind her. Jack, bleeding, aimed his pistol and fired again, directly into its eye. The beast fell. Smoke filled the chamber. Lyra rushed to Jack and touched his wound. Her fingers glowed as she pressed against his torn skin. The pain faded. "You're not dying today," she whispered. Above, the hunter leader finally arrived at the sealed bulkhead. He looked at the old carvings and symbols on the door. Ancient Ilari language. He placed his hand on the door and the symbols burned under his palm. "Open it," he commanded. The soldiers behind him hesitated. One whispered, "That's forbidden ground." The leader turned, his voice sharp. "I have hunted her across 5 star systems. I have buried her people, burned her cities. I will finish this." The door creaked, and slowly, it opened. Inside the shaft, Lyra and Jack stood side by side. Jack held his pistol, blood on his sleeve. Lyra's body glowed brighter now. Not just her hands. Her entire presence shimmered with power returning. She looked at Jack. "You've done enough. You don't have to die for me." He shook his head. "I'm not leaving you." She smiled, gently touching the side of his face. "Then let's finish this." The door behind them exploded open. Smoke and fire filled the air. The hunter leader stepped through, slow and deliberate. He raised his hand. Black energy gathered in his palm like lightning. "You were never meant to survive," he said coldly. "Your world died with your people." Lyra stepped forward. "No. It lives, say, in me." The 2 powers clashed, light and shadow, filling the shaft with a storm of color and sound. Jack stood behind her, shielding her flank. The fight had truly begun. But no matter what happened next, Jack knew one thing. He would rather die fighting beside her than live alone in silence again. The hidden power. The air inside the ancient shaft cracked with energy. Blue and black light collided in the center of the chamber like lightning clashing in a storm cloud. Jack could barely stay on his feet. The heat, the force, it was overwhelming. Lyra stood in the heart of it all, her silver cloak fluttering like wings, her hair glowing white, her eyes blazing with fire and purpose. Across from her, the hunter, leader held his hand out, black energy swirling like smoke around his armored arm. The soulstone was awakening. Jack could feel it. The mark on his hand burned brighter than ever before. This wasn't just a battle, this was history repeating itself. Do you really think you can win? The hunter leader sneered, stepping forward. His voice echoed unnaturally, distorted by the armor and powered by something ancient. You are alone, girl. Your people are dust. Your light means nothing in the darkness. Lyra didn't move. Her expression was calm, focused. I am not alone, she said. She turned slightly. Jack was still standing behind her, one arm bleeding, his face pale but his grip steady on the plasma pistol. The leader scoffed. A human? A scrap collector? That's your final protector? Lyra didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her power flared like a second sun. Jack didn't understand what was happening. He only knew one thing. The bond between them had changed. It wasn't just thoughts anymore. He could feel her emotion, her pain, her hope, her memories, all flowing through that strange, glowing mark. He saw flashes in his mind. Her childhood in a floating palace made of crystal. Her mother's smile as she taught her to control energy with music. Her panic as the skies burned and the stars fell, and most of all, her loneliness. He took a step toward her. I'm with you, he said. Whatever happens. Lyra turned her head slightly, just enough for him to see the corner of her lips curve. Then, hold on. Suddenly, the entire chamber shifted. A circle of symbols glowed around Lyra's feet, ancient Alari runes, long forgotten by even the stars themselves. They spun in slow motion, each one sparking like tiny suns. The ground trembled. The shaft's walls lit up with veins of blue light, like the planet itself was waking up. The hunter leader growled, No, this shouldn't be possible. She's unlocking the gate. Jack blinked. Gate? What gate? The leader's voice twisted in rage. That shaft isn't a mine. It's a seal. It hides the heart of Alari, the soulstone's core. If she completes the connection. But it was too late. Lyra rose into the air, surrounded by a cocoon of energy. Her voice echoed through the chamber, not in words but in pure tone. A song of power, not loud, not angry, just pure. Jack dropped to his knees, overwhelmed. The energy flowed into him too, warm, electric, ancient. His vision swam, and then he saw it. Not just in memory, not in dream, but in spirit. He stood at the center of an alien world before the fall, bathed in light, and Lyra was beside him, in full form, a ruler, a guardian. She turned to him and whispered, You were always meant to be here. Back in reality, Jack gasped. His eyes glowed, just for a moment, and then everything snapped back. He wasn't just a bondholder, he was now a conduit. The leader roared in fury. He leapt forward, black blade forming in his hand, made of corrupted crystal. Jack stepped in front of Lyra before she could stop him. Jack, don't, she shouted. The blade swung down. Jack raised his arms to shield himself, but instead of slicing through, it stopped. A blue shield had formed in front of him, pure energy from his chest, drawn from the bond. He blinked. What was that? Lyra's eyes widened. You You activated the link. You're sharing the Soulstone's power. Jack didn't understand it. Not fully, but he felt it, and it felt right. The leader stepped back, his rage now mixed with fear. This was not part of the prophecy, he growled. The human was never supposed to matter. Lyra's voice rang clear and sharp. That's your mistake. You think power only comes from bloodlines, titles, destiny. But true power, she looked at Jack, comes from choice. Then, the battle began in full. Drones dropped from above. Hunters poured through the broken door. The chamber lit up with chaos. Jack fought like a man with nothing to lose. He ducked, rolled, and fired with perfect timing. His aim, guided by instinct, or perhaps by Lyra's link. She fought too, but not with weapons. Her hands moved like a dancer's, each motion releasing bursts of light that melted enemy armor and shattered machines. But the enemy kept coming. More and more. Too many. Jack was pushed back, cornered by two soldiers. His gun overheated, out of ammo. One hunter raised a blade. And then, a wall of blue fire erupted between them. Lyra stood there, eyes glowing like twin stars. The flame didn't burn Jack, but it vaporized the soldiers. Jack looked at her, stunned. She was no longer weak, no longer hiding. She was ascending. The leader watched from above, breathing heavily. His armor was cracked. His weapon was nearly drained, but his hatred remained. You may win this battle, he hissed, but the Varn will never stop. The stars themselves will burn before we let the Soulstone rise again. Lyra floated upward until she was level with him. She didn't speak. She placed her hand on her heart. A pulse of light spread out from her like a shockwave. It hit the leader, like a hammer. His armor shattered. He fell to his knees. And then, he vanished. Gone. Only the echo of his scream remained. Silence returned. The chamber glowed softly, like a heart that had stopped bleeding. The enemies were gone. Jack sat on the edge of the platform, breathing hard, covered in dirt and ash. Lyra knelt beside him, placing her hand on his chest. A soft blue glow healed the worst of his wounds. You okay? She asked gently. He nodded, barely smiling. Not dead, so, yeah, doing fine. She looked at him, really looked. I couldn't have done this without you. He chuckled. I was just the guy with the rusty pistol. She shook her head. No. You were the only one who saw me. The only one who didn't run. Jack leaned back and looked up at the ceiling. What now? Lyra stood slowly. The Soulstone is awakening, but we're not safe. The Varn will return, stronger, smarter. Jack frowned. So we run? Lyra looked into the shaft, the heart of the ancient world now glowing like a beacon. No, she said firmly. We prepare. Outside, high in orbit, far beyond the broken sky, dozens of red eyes flickered on across a black void. Varn command ships had received the signal. The Soulstone was active, and their nightmare had just begun. Final battle. The stars had vanished from the orbit of the junk planet. Space itself looked broken, filled with black shapes that moved like shadows across the sky. The Varn fleet had arrived. Dozens of colossal ships floated silently in formation. Each one was shaped like a dagger, long, sharp, and hungry. Their hulls pulsed with red veins like they were alive. Weapons hummed quietly, waiting for the order to strike. And in the center, at the heart of the enemy, sat the Varn Warden, a massive vessel the size of a city. At its peak stood a dark figure, even taller than the last hunter leader. His face was covered by a cracked silver mask, and in his chest pulsed a faint glow. It was the mark of the Soulstone, but not one of light, one of corruption. Lyra has awakened, the Warden growled. She must not unite with the core. If she does, we lose the stars. He raised his hand. A ripple of dark energy spread across the fleet, burned the planet. Below, inside the ancient shaft, Jack and Lyra stood on a high platform surrounded by glowing runes and flickering lights. The Soulstone's energy pulsed beneath them, alive, awake, aware. Jack stared at the sky, the darkness above. His scanner showed it clearly. "Incoming ships," he said, voice grim. "All of them." Lyra stood tall. Her cloak had turned into something else now. Woven light, flowing with every breath she took. Her eyes no longer just glowed. They shone like stars seen through water. "They're afraid," she said. Jack looked at her. They should be, but inside he wasn't sure. This was too much, too big. He was just one man. And she, though powerful, was still recovering. "They're going to bomb the planet," he said. "We won't survive if we stay here." Lyra walked to the edge of the platform where the runes met the center of the shaft. She placed her hand on the stone floor. "It's time," she said softly. "For what?" "For me. To finish the bond." Before Jack could ask what she meant, she turned toward him. "I have something to show you," she said. Then, without warning, she touched his forehead, and the world changed. Suddenly, Jack stood in a vast white space. Endless sky, endless silence, and Lyra stood beside him. Not as the girl he knew, but in full Ilari form. Glowing robes, a crown of starlight. Her voice came from everywhere. "This is the inner link," she said. "Only two people who truly trust each other can enter." Jack looked around, confused. "Why are we here?" "Because the Soulstone is not just power. It's memory, emotion, unity. It doesn't unlock through war. It unlocks through connection." She walked closer, her face suddenly filled with sorrow. "There's something I haven't told you." Jack frowned. "What is it?" Lyra reached out and took his hand. Their marks glowed in sync. "You're not just helping me. You're part of this." He shook his head. "I'm just a human." "No," she whispered. "You're more." Then images flooded his mind. Not hers, his, but deeper, older. He saw a boy, on Earth, years ago, staring at the stars, drawing strange symbols in the dirt. The same symbols as the Soulstone. He saw himself in a hospital bed as a child, during a fever. Glowing marks appearing on his skin, marks the doctors dismissed as hallucinations. He saw dreams he'd had as a teenager, of a silver tower, of a girl with glowing eyes. He had always believed they were nightmares, but they weren't. They were memories. "Your ancestors were Ilari," Lyra said softly. "A long-lost branch, sent away for safety during the first invasion. Your blood carries fragments of our soul." Jack gasped. "You're saying I'm not human? Not fully. That's why the Soulstone chose you, why you heard my voice, why we bonded so fast." He fell to his knees in the white space, overwhelmed. Lyra knelt with him. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was afraid. But you deserved the truth." He looked up at her, and in his eyes was not fear, but acceptance. "I don't care what I am," he said. "I just care about stopping them." Lyra smiled. "Then let's do it. Together." Back. In the real world, Jack opened his eyes with a gasp. The energy around them had changed. He stood taller. The mark on his hand had expanded, reaching his arm, chest, and neck in glowing lines. His veins shone blue. He wasn't just bonded anymore, he was activated. Lyra floated above the platform now, arms outstretched. "I'm connecting to the heart," she said. "But I need time." Jack looked at the scanner. "No time," he said. "Missiles incoming, 30 seconds. Lyra's eyes closed. "I'll hold the light, then I'll hold the line." The sky split open as the first wave of bombs fell, but before they could hit the surface, a barrier formed. A dome of energy, born from the Soulstone itself, rose over the shaft. It caught the missiles in midair and melted them like wax. But the strain was massive. Lyra screamed in pain, hovering midair, her arms shaking. Jack ran to her, placed his hand over her heart. "I'm here," he said. "Share it with me." She opened her eyes, and for a moment he saw every star she had ever seen reflected in her gaze. Then the energy surged outward again, brighter, wider, stronger. On the warden's ship, the Dark Commander stepped back as his console shattered under the force of the Soulstone's light. "Impossible," he hissed. "No one has reached this state since the first flame." His second-in-command panicked. "Should we retreat?" He turned sharply. "No." He raised his black blade high. "We go down with them." Back on the planet, Jack and Lyra stood hand in hand at the center of the platform, surrounded by light. "I can feel it," she whispered. "The Soulstone. It's choosing a new path." What path? Not just power. A pulse, a message, a warning. Jack realized what she meant. They weren't just going to defend. They were going to broadcast. Lyra floated higher, glowing like a star. Jack stepped back as ancient symbols rose from the floor around them, spinning in rings. Then, a wave of light exploded from the planet. Not a weapon, a signal. It passed through ships, machines, weapons, through people, through memories, through time. It showed the truth of the Varn's crimes, of Ilari's fall, of Lyra's pain, of Jack's choice, and across the galaxy, something awakened. In distant systems, people who thought the Ilari were extinct looked up and remembered. On rebel moons, prisoners raised their heads. On dead worlds, machines flickered with ancient runes. Hope returned, and above the junk planet, the Varn fleet began to crack. One by one, their ships malfunctioned, not from attack, but from fear. The Soulstone was more than power. It was a mirror, and those with guilt could not survive it. The warden screamed as his ship began to fall apart. He looked at the signal one last time. Lyra and Jack, hand in hand, light exploding around them. And then, his ship vanished in a burst of black dust. The battle was over. But the war had just begun. Jack collapsed on the platform, breathing heavily. Lyra fell beside him, eyes half closed. "You okay?" he whispered. She nodded slowly. "Tired, but alive." Jack laughed softly. "That makes two of us." He looked up at the sky. For the first time in years, he saw stars again. Real stars. And beside him was someone who had once been a creature. A secret, a mystery, now a friend, maybe more. The wind picked up. Lyra looked at him, her voice soft. "We sent a message to the galaxy. They heard us." Jack smiled. "Good. Let them come." She tilted her head. "You're not scared?" He shook his head. "I have you. And now I know who I am." He looked at his glowing mark. "I'm not just a survivor. I'm a piece of something bigger." She reached out and took his hand. Together they stood, on a broken world, under a rising light. A new beginning. The stars were quiet now. Above the ruined scrap planet, space had gone still. The blackness that once held the Varn fleet was empty again. No more warships, no more drones, no more voices in the dark. Only the quiet breath of the galaxy remained. But everything had changed. A pulse had gone out. A wave of memory, of truth. A signal born from Lyra's heart and Jack's choice, fired from the Soulstone's core and carried by light itself, and the galaxy had heard it. 2 days passed. Jack stood on a metal ledge just above the ancient shaft, now glowing with soft, blue light. Around him, the dead machines and abandoned tunnels hummed faintly, like they were remembering life again. He held a small communicator in his hand, something he'd dug out from the ruins. He was trying to connect it to long-range frequencies, but the tech was still unstable. Beside him, Lyra was sitting quietly, eyes closed, legs crossed, her hands resting on her knees as she meditated. Her glow was softer now, but deeper, more complete. "You're doing it again," Jack said quietly, glancing over. Lyra opened one eye. "Doing what?" "That glowy meditation floating still too beautiful for this world thing." She smiled faintly, tilting her head. "I have to maintain the core connection. The Soulstone is changing me. It's no longer just protection. It's becoming part of me. Jack nodded slowly. That's not terrifying at all. She chuckled. It doesn't want power. It wants balance. It lived in fear for a long time. But now, it's waking up. Choosing again. Jack pocketed the communicator. You talk about it like it's alive. Lyra stood slowly and walked over to him. Maybe not in the way you think. But yes, it feels. It remembers. It responds to choice. She looked out over the planet's jagged horizon. It chose you. Jack leaned against the rail. I still don't understand why. I was no one. Just a guy hiding on a junk planet. Lyra touched his shoulder gently. You were someone who stopped. Who cared. Who reached out when no one else did. She paused. And that saved the galaxy. Later that evening, Jack and Lyra gathered what little supplies remained in the underground chamber. They stood beside the broken frame of an old scout ship, half buried, half functional. Jack had been working on repairing it with parts from destroyed hunter drones. It wasn't pretty, but it was flight-worthy. He tapped the hull. She'll fly, I think. At least until we hit space. Lyra smiled. That's all we need. They packed what little gear they had, tools, food rations, data cores. But the most important cargo was inside Lyra herself. The Soulstone's energy had gone dormant again, no longer exploding or glowing, but now pulsing gently within her. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a message, and that message had to be carried further. We can't stay here, Lyra said as the sun dipped below the horizon. The Varn will rebuild. Others will come. Some may not believe. Some may want to use the Soulstone again. Jack nodded. So where do we go? She hesitated. Home. Jack raised an eyebrow. Alari? Your world is gone. She looked at him. Not all of it. There's one last place, hidden in starlight. A place only those bonded to the Soulstone can find. Jack frowned. You mean? Yes, she said. It's calling to us. They launched the next morning. The ship rattled and groaned, but it lifted from the surface. Jack grinned like a kid driving his first hoverbike. Told you she'd fly. From above, the planet looked almost peaceful again. Quiet, broken, but healing. And as they left the atmosphere, something strange happened. The stars moved, not in a physical sense, but in the way a curtain might part on a stage. Jack blinked. Did the stars just shift? Lyra closed her eyes. They're guiding us. A path appeared in front of them, tiny flashes of blue light blinking like stepping stones across the Black Sea. Jack stared in awe. Is this the Soulstone's trail? Lyra nodded. The last route to Alari. Jack took the controls. All right then, let's follow the light. For the next few hours they passed through nebula clouds, dead asteroid fields, and silent ruins of ancient battles. The galaxy had scars everywhere, reminders of what had been lost, but also of what could be rebuilt. At one point they passed a station, long abandoned, suddenly flickering to life as their ship passed. They're waking up, Lyra said softly. The old Alari beacons, they remember the signal. Jack stared at it. They're responding to us. Then the final part of the path appeared. A small wormhole almost invisible to normal sensors. Lyra placed her hand on the ship's console. It's safe, she said. The Soulstone recognizes it. Jack pulled the ship toward the anomaly. Last chance to turn back, he said. Lyra looked at him. No turning back anymore. They passed through, and everything changed. When they exited the wormhole, they entered a system Jack had never seen in any star chart. The sun was small but blinding white. Around it orbited several small planets, but one stood out, green, glowing, wrapped in swirling aurora skies. It was beautiful, and very, very alive. Ilari, Lyra whispered. Jack's jaw dropped. But it's not destroyed. No, she said. Not this one. This was the hidden seed, the second cradle, built before the war. It was protected, waiting for me to return. As they approached the planet, small ships rose from its atmosphere. Ilari ships, sleek, silver, elegant. They didn't attack, they simply flew beside them. Like a welcome. Lyra placed her hand on the glass of the window. Tears ran down her cheeks. My people live. Jack looked at her. And they're about to get their princess back. They landed on a floating platform above the capital. A city of glowing trees, mirrored buildings, and rivers of light. As Jack stepped out of the ship, he saw Ilari of all ages lining the walkways, silent, in awe. Some cried, some smiled, others just watched. Then an elder stepped forward. Her hair was silver like Lyra's, and her eyes glowed softly. She bowed. Your light returned, the elder said, and you brought more than memory. She turned to Jack. You brought him. Jack blinked. Me? The elder smiled. You're not just bonded to Lyra. You're bonded to Ilari now. Jack scratched the back of his head. I'm still just a guy with a pistol. Lyra took his hand. Not anymore, she said. That night, the stars burned brighter. A ceremony was held under the twin moons of Ilari. Jack stood beside Lyra as she stepped into a circle of energy. The soul stone, now housed in her chest, like a living heart pulsed with golden light. She looked at her people. At the edge of death we found life again, she said. Not through strength, not through weapons, but through connection, through trust. She turned toward Jack. And through him, the people bowed. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. For once he wasn't hiding. He was seen. He was home. Much later, as the city lights faded and most had gone to sleep, Jack and Lyra stood on a balcony high above the world. She looked at him. You could stay here. Live among us. Jack hesitated. And if I don't? She smiled. Then we go together. There's still more galaxy out there. More to fix. More to protect. He nodded. Then maybe we're not done yet. She stepped closer. Maybe we're just beginning. They looked out into the stars, and somewhere deep in the galaxy the soul stone pulsed again, waiting.